Welcome back to Tech Take. I'm Adam Housley in Los Angeles, where news and technology collide. We brought Eric Yaverbaum back. He's in our New York studio to talk about why Generation Y just flat out isn't picking up the cell phone. Now, Eric, I'm kind of like in between X and Y.
Yeah.
But I will say it is a little frustrating with some of my colleagues and some of my friends. You know, I like texting. I don't mind texting. But there's a lot of times where it's just easier to make a phone call, to set up whatever you have to do to get it done. It's just faster, quicker. Maybe I have my son in my arms or I'm driving and I have no hands or hands-free on. So why is it Gen Y just doesn't want to do that? They rather, just not pick up the phone at all.
You know what? The statistics about social media, they're daunting. I mean, the 98%, if you're between 18 and 24, 98% of that demographic is on Facebook. And think about this. In the year 2000, there was 14 billion text messages sent. 10 years later, only 10 years later, there was 10 times that amount of text messages sent in the same year. That's how we're all communicating now, text messaging. One line, misunderstood half the time, and we don't pick up the phone. The least used device that you use, the least used app that you use on your phone is your phone itself. You use everything else, but you don't pick up the phone.
Yeah, it was bad enough picking up mixed messages or wrong messages by using email. And then, as you mentioned,
That's right
along the lines now with all the different feeds you can follow, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or text messaging, all those things, of course, can basically send out mixed messages, give out the wrong impression. Every time I turn around, people are having issues trying to clarify what they really meant about this or that. And half the time or three-quarters of the time, it's not even me. I just watch it taking place. And if they just made a phone call, they could have heard the inflection of voice.
That's right.
And they would have taken a lot less time.
Well, if you think of the social skills that it takes just to have an actual conversation, or even as a kid, at the high school dance where you have to walk across the gym floor and ask the girl, do you want to dance? And, you're a little bit nervous about it. I was a shy kid. I had to develop my social skills by actually talking, not text messaging. Now, you don't have to do that. You don't have to develop your social skills whatsoever. It would be, the same thing as saying, hey, instead of learning long division, here's a calculator. You don't have to learn how long division works. Just use the calculator all the time. You don't have to understand how it works.
In effect, Eric, have we gone so far forward that we've gone backwards? I mean, think about this. Even 150 years ago, people weren't that connected. I mean, you obviously had snail mail that was carried by the Pony Express. You knew the people in your small community, and that was about it. Nowadays, you can connect with people all over the world, but at the same time, you're not really truly connecting with them.
Well, I think it's, the data is just sort of a sign of the times. And, whether we've gone backwards or we've gone fast, forward at warp speed, is it better? And the answer to is it better is it's irrelevant whether it's better or not. It is. It is the way that we communicate. You have parents and their kids communicating on text messages, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. You have relationships that text messaging, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. I don't know. I'm in communications for a living. I can't text message anybody and not have something misinterpreted. I'd much rather speak to them, but nobody answers the phone.
How do you change it? I mean, do we
you
go
don't
back
change
to
it. I mean,
having classes?
You will, unless you want to give up some time to put your phone down. I mean, in June, Facebook crashed for 30 minutes. And what happened? Mania. What did everybody do? They went to Twitter. They couldn't believe Facebook was down for 30 minutes. They couldn't live without Facebook. I think that everything social media, it is the way that the youth is growing up today. And they're going to have more and more of it. I mean, you look at some of the new apps, like Yo. I don't know if you've heard of Yo. It just came out. Some investors put over $1 million into Yo. There's over 1 million people using it already. That's all it says is Yo. And you got investors putting money into that. You have apps like, Split and Cloak. Those are two apps so you can find out where people that you want to avoid are so that you can avoid them. For Cloak alone, 300,000 downloads in the first week. I mean, so people, they're using everything digital now to communicate, to talk, to avoid, to be passive-aggressive. Everything that you could possibly do to create miscommunication.
I'm not opposed to the whole cloak thing. I mean, avoiding people you don't want to see, that's not so much of a big deal to me. I think the bigger issue is, you touched on throughout this entire conversation, is the fact that we've done everything to really avoid the interpersonal communication aspect. And the fact of the matter is, no matter how far we go along, no matter how much we can buy online and all the different things we can do online, you still have to have the ability to connect on an interpersonal level and maybe it's up to us as parents to somehow change that,
Well,
or to somehow
in
encourage the next generation to change that.
In part, I think we're probably swimming upstream now. I mean, and I'll tell you, like this weekend, what are your plans that you're going to do in between your text messaging? And if you're not one of those people who constantly has their smartphone out, just watch. Go to the beach. Go to, a baseball game, watch soccer. It doesn't matter what it is. Everybody's texting during the entire event. It amazes me. What are your plans that you're going to fit in between this weekend, in between your text messages? Just walk down the beach. People they're not loving the sun. They're not looking at the water. They're text messaging. That's what everybody does now.
Yeah, or like you mentioned, you're on watching the television, watching the soccer game, watching the baseball game, whatever it happens to be, and you are commenting, doing your own social commentary on your social networks. Eric Yaverbaum, a couple places you can find out more about what Eric does and his expertise. You can find him more at erichopr.com. Also at trumpedmag.com. That's trumpedmag.com, as well as on Twitter at @RealYaverbaum. So if you want to maybe communicate with the way that's frustrating Eric and I, you just hit him up on Twitter. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, I'm Adam Housley in Los Angeles, and you're watching Tech Take.